Good evening, Blue Chessers. I am Gavin Ong from the Blue Chesser, and today I'll be analyzing my game against Elizabeth Harmon, virtual Elizabeth Harmon, from the hit Netflix series The Queen's Gambit. So, chess.com, right now I'm on their website. Chess.com has recently announced that they have a virtual Elizabeth Harmon that you can play with and test your skill against. Okay, so, they're able to program a bot that plays like her, talks like her, and does all of these alike. So here I'm on their website, and you get the chance to play against Elizabeth Harmon at ages 8, 15, 17, 20, and 22. Well, I mean, there's even 10, ages 9 and 10, but those are in the game itself. So I'll show you the layout, how chess.com promotes it. So here you get to play against Beth, and you get to choose the difficulty that you want. So here, this is when Beth just started playing chess against Mr. Scheibo in the series. So 8 years old, and then as she gets older and older, you can see how she is now a stronger club player, and this is when she was able to beat everyone in the high school match, and this was when she was able to win the Kentucky championship against Harry Beltic, and then here the 17 years old was when she, I think, I'm not mistaken, she was already playing in the national leagues, and really she has proven herself as one of the great chess players the US has ever seen. It goes on to her playing in international competitions until she reached the time when she was able to beat Borgov. So this game that I will show you today was my game against Beth at 17 years old. So according to the caption here, it says that Beth is playing at the strength of an international master, and she has proven herself at the national level and is ready for an international stage. Are you ready? So this is technically Beth at an international master strength at 2,400, which is a big jump, to be honest. So from here, it's 1880, and in just 2 years, she jumps to 2,400, which is like, wow, right? So anyway, I'll show you my game right now. And be wary, I didn't reveal I think I may have revealed the result to some people already, but for those who haven't seen the result, I'll just save it for the end of the game. Okay, so um, here's my game against Elizabeth Harmon at 17 years old, the chess.com bot. And here I played as white against Beth, who handled the black pieces. Okay, for those who know me and as have played against me in competitions before, I always play e4. Sorry, I always play e4 and e5. I'm so used to playing e4 and e5 because that's what I always play against in competitions. I'm very used to it. I've played, I don't know how many games I played in my lifetime, but I can just say that I played a lot. So I've seen a lot of positions already in my lifetime. So, if you watch the series, Beth liked to play the Sicilian and the Cariocan a lot. So you'd see her reply with this, with different types of moves. But in this game, Beth even spoke to me then. She had this like mini ribbon message there that says, "Oh, you play e4? That's such a common move." And then she said, "Okay, I'll reply with e5. I played this so many times already. I'm so experienced." So that's how she talks. And yeah. And of course, my natural reply here, which is I think what most people would reply with, is knight f3. And standard theory replies knight c6. And here's where I chose the opening that I want to play against her. I decided to use the Scotch Gambit by playing the move d4. And this is the opening that I've learned in high school in Xavier. And I use it a lot in competitions too. It's a very nice opening. It's active. It's has dynamic play here and there, and both sides have great chances in this game. Have great chances, great advantages, great weaknesses, and all that stuff. So the Scotch Gambit, yeah, you can search about it more in other videos. But for the purpose of this video, I won't go deep into the opening. I'll just show you the line that I played. So after capturing the pawn, e takes d4, I replied with bishop c4. So very common opening. I'm giving away the pawn for developing my bishop on c4. Bishop c5, very common, defending the pawn here, all theory. c3, also theory. So yeah, that's the part of theory. I'm hoping that she captures the pawn here, because if Beth decides to capture the pawn, then I have bishop takes f7, king takes f7, queen d5, check. And I pick up the bishop. So Beth, of course, is not stupid. She's 2400 in this case, so she replied with the most popular reply, knight f6. And this attacks the e4 pawn, at the same time maintains the pressure between these two pawns here, the c pawn and the d pawn. Okay, so the most natural reply is to capture back. Now I have a huge center here, but of course black is okay to give away the center because he'll get it back later on. With bishop b4 check. Okay, so bishop b4 check, there are only two possible replies here. Knight bd2 or bishop d2. And between the two of them, I chose the harder one to play against, of course, because I want to challenge Beth, right? So I chose the harder line. I decided to play knight bd2. She replied with d5. Now there, okay, this move d5 is what I was saying earlier about how black is okay to give up the center. At the same time, she will now counter that center by playing pawn to d5, giving away a pawn in exchange for a broken center formation in my part. Okay, so for white will end up with a broken position in exchange for one pawn from black. So we'll see how that looks like here. So after white captures the black pawn, you'll see here that white has doubled pawns, and this is not good in chess. It's a weakness, actually. Although not all double pawns are weaknesses, but in this case, this is a weakness. The pawn on d5 is weak because there's only one defender, and black has so many chances to attack that pawn, and my pawn on d4 as well. And now there's an open file here too, so there's chances of play there later on. Okay. Now, there's something about this move where, something about Beth's reply that I was a bit curious about, because I'm normally in this line, or in what I suggest as well, because I did my own self-analysis and I checked the game and I made sure that I gave my own analysis on it before consulting the computer. But the move knight takes d5 seemed just more natural to me and to every human player out there. Knight takes d5, right? You give away the pawn, you capture it back. And at the same time, you're giving white an isolated d pawn here in the center. So, although there's so many theory on that as well, so many books that talks about the isolated d pawn. But in this case, knight takes d5 is, for me, the most natural and the best reply as well for black. But we'll see here that Beth decided to deviate away from the main line and played the move queen e7, which is also another possible reply here. According to the engine, is another good reply here. Okay, so guys, don't worry. I consulted the engine for my analysis. But at the same time, I just want you to all know that I gave my personal analysis before I consulted the computer. I think that's the best way to analyze your own games, is to take a look first at and see maybe you could have played something better before consulting the computer on which move is actually better. So queen e7 check, and of course the most natural reply will be queen e2, blocking the check from black. And this is particularly why I didn't like the move queen e7. The reason why I didn't like queen e7 is the fact that this knight here is sort of in a tough spot. Why do you think this is in a tough spot? This knight is in a tough spot. It's because where is it going to go? Is it going to go to a5? Is it going to go to b8? Or is it going to go to d8? right? Where is it going to run? Where is it going to run to? That's a big question that we have to answer later on. But in this case, right, since Beth is a computer, probably she saw already all the way through, and she found a way for this knight to be able to um, gain something, gain some kind of movement without it being in an awkward spot. So for in this case, she played knight a5, and in this position, I did my own self-analysis, and I thought to myself, maybe there's a better move here than just capturing the queen, because I played queen takes e7, right? And I think their better reply here is to play bishop b5 check. I consulted this with an engine as well, and the engine told me the same thing. So I was happy to see the engine recommend the same move as my own self-analysis, right? But I think bishop d5 is stronger because it maintains the pressure on the queens in the center as well, in the center E file. Okay, but in this case, I think bishop d5 check is also good because it's a natural move, right? A move like, for example, c6 will not do anything good for black. Why is that? Okay, because after capture, and in capture, you see that this pawn is hanging because it's only guarded by one piece, and this piece is even in the corner. So maybe a move like a3 and b4 targets the knight. The knight will go back, and this pawn will be mine. I can play knight e5 and even attack this pawn with another piece. I can even play queen c4 if this knight goes away. Even rook c1 later on, because this bishop will develop. This rook will come here and attacks on c6. And so there's a point of attack, and I think this is the point of attack that I'm aiming for, the c6 pawn. If ever, of course, if black plays c6. But since Beth is at 2,400, of course, she won't succumb to that kind of pressure. And the best move is to play bishop d7. After playing bishop d7, bishop takes d7 is the best reply here, most natural as a human. And if you were to capture with a certain piece here, which piece would you capture back with? I'll give you 10 seconds to make a decision. Is it knight takes d7 or king takes d7? Okay, so for those who chose knight takes d7, good job. It's actually the best reply here as black because you're maintaining the pressure and you're also allowing yourself to castle later on. After knight takes d7, the variation continues at queen takes, king takes, and castling. So in this position, it's equal. So the chances of drawing this game is very high. After knight takes d7. Okay. Although, if you play king takes, so for those who chose king takes d7, perhaps you have an explanation why. But based on my own analysis, this is what I saw. So king takes d7, most natural reply will be knight e5 check, attacking the king. And there are three options that you can play. Okay. If you play king e8, do you guys see the move if it's king e8? Feel free to pause the video at any time to see the reply. Okay. If king e8, a3 is coming, right? a3, if bishop d6, then queen b5 check, picks up the knight. So that's not good. But the best reply here, since I consulted the computer, I was like, is this really winning? Is this really totally winning for white? Apparently the computer has some crazy line that I have to show you right now. So the computer suggests knight b3, precisely the point that this knight cannot capture this because it's pinned. So it's pinned here. And at the same time, this knight can capture the rook and the bishop. It's attacking two pieces at the same time, and even the third one here, right? So this is a brilliant move, knight b3. Very brilliant by the computer. And the best reply here will be to play queen d5, check. So attacking the two pieces here. After king f8, the computer plays queen takes b7, and attacking the rook here, rook e8, castling knight a1, knight c6, attacking both. So see, this is a very computer way to play, guys. So don't worry if you don't see these moves, because I didn't see it either. This is computer, very computer-like. Humans cannot play to a level of a computer, guys. Okay, so these are just interesting lines to see. Queen takes queen d7, queen takes b4 check, and this is better for white, slightly better for white. Now, on the other hand, if you play queen takes b4, so if in this position, the best move is to play queen takes b7, right? If you play queen takes b4, on the other hand, you have you have queen takes b4, a takes. Now you see this is awful. Sorry, this is awful. Two doubled pawns. They're all separate from each other. This is easy targets for the knights. Look, notice guys, these pawns, since it's so awful, it's because these knights can easily attack these pawns and snipe them one by one. Right? Okay, so it's black to move. And after knight takes a1, you have moves like knight c2 to attack these pieces. And after, let's say, king d1, blocking the escape square, you have knight takes d5, and then you can capture this pawn here on b4 and gain the c2 square for the escape of your other knight. Yeah, not mistaken. So let's say if there's a move like knight d3, which is more complex already, we can see hopefully our goal is to get this knight from getting trapped. So maybe a5 perhaps, no? A5 seems like natural move because if you capture, you have this already. If you play b5, and then you can play this and then bring your knight out. So there's so many opportunities here for you. So this is still much better for black. But on the other hand, if you play, going back to the position you have earlier, if you play king takes, and you play knight e5, if you play king d6, this is a huge blunder. Okay, so I'll give you guys a couple of seconds, try to find the tactics here in this position. Okay, so 10 seconds. Okay, so for those of you who were able to find the move, congratulations. And for those who just want to enjoy the show, the move is a3. This is completely winning for white. Okay. Now, why is it completely winning for white? First of all, this king is in an awkward spot already. It's in the center, and this bishop here is also trapped, right? It can't go anywhere at the moment. Now, if you play a move like, let's say, knight b3, you have capture. Where's the better check here? No, check there. Check here, perhaps. Check here. And then king takes. Oh, this is scary, very scary, right? And then maybe check here. And then knight covers. And then maybe this is still a long variation to play against, right? But it's nice that we're analyzing it this way. So anyway, this looks like it's losing already. Because you have this, and then you even possibly have these attacks everywhere coming. So maybe castling. And then here, maybe, and then here. So there's just, so many ways to win this game. So it's not a tactical thing that it's one variation only. Right. So the best move here in defense, apparently, according to the engine, after if you play king takes, is to play king c8. And the weakness is highlighted more on white's end. Like the double pawn weakness is highlighted more. and at the same time, you're blocking your rook from coming out. So that's the downside of it. Moving on. Okay, moving on. After queen takes e7, the game continues with bishop takes e7. So guys, before I continue, for those of you who are confused, this is already what happened in the game. The one a while ago that I showed you was just an analysis that I put on the side. Okay, so this is what happens this is what happened in the main game. So queen takes, yeah, bishop takes. Okay, king takes e7 is also okay. So if you decide to take with king, it's okay too. Bishop d3. Sorry, bishop d3. If you play knight takes d5, castling. Bishop d6, rook e1, rook a d8. Bishop c2, knight c6, a3, knight e5. And this is still okay for white. White is actually slightly better here, maybe by a little bit, but not much of a big advantage. So it's still playable for both sides. Okay. On the other hand, if you play d6 check, so there's also an opportunity here that you might consider playing d6. It doesn't work. In lieu of capture, a3, perhaps to trap the bishop, but it doesn't work. Knight takes, capture, 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 and you are left with double pawns too. And a bad bishop because you're blocking your own bishop, diba? So this is much better for black. Okay, so after bishop takes e7, I played bishop d5 check. Bishop d7 was played. So similar to the line a while ago. You see how we're connecting different webs of the game, the tree, into a solid analysis, right? So bishop d7, bishop takes, king takes, knight e5 check. So you see a while ago, it looks very similar to the analysis I made a while ago. Knight e5, king c8, knight f7. So this is free, diba? So why not? Rook e8, castling. Okay, so very natural since this is a discovery. I needed to castle already. Rook f8, knight e5 again. Actually, I think this would have been okay too. Right? I think this is another possible reply to the positions. But I didn't see it as well. So I'm only seeing these after my analysis, right? Knight g5 would have been okay too. Like I think this would have annoyed black to some degree. To getting this pawn, maybe push this after knight e6. Let's say perhaps here, right? So I think there's some opportunity here. Nope, sorry. Or perhaps this. Since this is hard to defend. This is already supposed to be black's pawn, black's material. Maybe here, just to annoy the hell out of him. So here, then we can probably play right here. This looks much better than knight e5. But they're both okay. I mean, there's nothing wrong with knight e5 either. So moving on. So this is what happened in the game already. Knight d5, a3, knight c6, and here's my mistake. Okay, so guys, I had a chance to win already after knight c6. I had a chance to win, or at least gain an advantage. But I didn't. I played a bit fast. I played this move fast since there's no timer. This actually, when you play games against these personality bots, there's no timer. So I just like, okay, maybe I'll just fling a knight here and see what happens, right? But knight e4, I played knight e4, which is a mistake. Obviously because I hung my d4 pawn by sheer carelessness. Right? I could have done something else maybe. Even a better move would have been here, perhaps, so guarding the pawn. Or better yet, actually, my own analysis suggests knight c6. Because after knight c6 and after b takes c6, you have now a weakness here. Black has a double pawn weakness. On the other hand, I have good squares to land my knight on. So maybe I can go knight c4, perhaps land my knight here and attack this pawn. Or I can even go here. I can go or here, sorry, here. Or maybe, of course, I'll take e5, right? This is a good square for my knight. Then maybe bishop d2 and then attack this pawn further with a rook, right? So why didn't I play that in my game? Sadly, well, I was too excited, and of course, chess is like a basketball. You know, the ball is round. No one is perfect. It happens. So after knight e4, the move played in the game was knight takes d4, obviously, and after rook d1, knight b3, I felt that the game was already leaning towards black's end. That Beth was starting to catch up in the game. And I felt here I was going to lose because I made a mistake already. I gave away my d4 pawn, right? So anyway, moving on. Rook d1. So I think this is my only mistake in the game because chess.com showed me that I had one mistake. And I didn't ask anymore which move in that game was my mistake. But I think it was this one. Okay, I think this was my mistake in the game. Knight takes d4, rook d1, knight b3, rook d1, c6. Okay, so compare this position to this one. This is the analysis, you compare it to this. The position looks a lot better for black here. Everything is solid. The knight is in a good spot, cannot be kicked out easily. And my rook is barred from entry because this knight is right here compared to this one where my rook has entry here, and there's a lot of prospects for me to attack. Okay, so after rook d1, bishop g5, knight takes. So in the actual game, I played bishop g5, tried to exchange the bishop away because this bishop is going to be captured, right? So capture. And then after rook e8, I played knight c4, possibly aiming for some knight d6 ideas. But of course, Beth is not stupid. Plays king c7. And you see here that how this knight is so beautiful is because it blocks my rook from coming here. So you see how a small difference changed the entire game. Knight takes ace. I grab the free pawn. Beth played rook e2. Okay, getting ready to slice my pawns in the second rank. Rook e1, trying to exchange the rook that is trying to slash my pawns. Because of course, if I leave this alone, Beth has ideas like this. And then once my knight moves away, example, after let's say I push anything, like let's say this. After this, where's my knight going? We'll go here, get taken. We'll get taken here. Here it will get taken. Here it will get taken. Right? So there's nowhere my knight can go. Where exactly is it going? There's no direction. So I think the best move really here was to trade the rook. So I tried to trade the rooks away. So at least when the knight gets kicked away, my knight on c4, I'll have some way of retreating it to a safer square. So of course, Beth won't capture it. She piled her rooks up as well. And since I was at the position as well, I offered the exchange using my king, moved it to f1, and threatening to capture this further. So I gained another attacker on this rook against one defender. Okay. Obviously, Beth will not capture this still. She played knight f4, guarding the rook, and at the same time, attacking this pawn here. I played, of course, g3, allowing my escape, and also in case that the knight moves away, I can capture the rook. So Beth is forced to exchange the rooks now. But of course, Beth will always be creative, and as any computer engine out there, they're always creative and find moves that humans never do. Played the move, rook e8 to e4. And this move blew me for a while because I was like, wow, not letting go of the knight. You allow me to capture the knight, huh? In exchange for this, grabbing the other knight, right? So I spent some time thinking here. I was like, okay, what are my prospects here? I have G takes F4. I have Rook takes. I have different ideas, right? But the main thing that caught my attention here was the fact that if this knight moved away, let's say I move this here, trying to block this, like I want to capture this perhaps because this knight is finally blocking the rooks. Beth has a secret move here, knight d2. And this is what I saw. I was like, oh my goodness, if I move my knight away, Beth can swing in and grab my other rook. So I was like, what am I going to do? My rook is being attacked. So I just said, okay, you know what? Since we're at it, I just captured the knight in exchange for the pawn. Anyway, I'm up material. I can give back the pawn for a safer endgame. So Beth, of course, since now the knight, she cannot capture this knight because this rook takes, right? So she then resorted to playing rook takes, and then rook takes knight. Okay, in this position, white is still better, definitely, because if you look at the position, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Beth has 4. And at the same time, I have this attack here. I can grab all these pawns here, and then my knight can come here and attack this. So there's so many ideas that are possible in this position for white. But of course, chess gets the best of you, and tendency is there are lots of moves that you'll miss out on. And one move that I definitely saw was knight g5. After my analysis, I was like, huh, knight g5 was highly possible. Why didn't I play knight g5? Now what's so nice about knight g5? Okay, it somewhat defends this pawn here. How? It's like, Gavin, the pawn on f4 is hanging. How come you're saying it's defended? Because if the rook captures this, there's knight here, check. So I was like, why didn't I play knight g5? It's also possible knight g5, right? Highly possible, and then rook f4, knight e6, check. So that defends the pawn. But I think I played a stronger move. After rook takes c4, I played rook e7 check. Trying to grab the pawn on g7. Because if you think about it, this is 3 against 1. So if I eliminate this one pawn here, then that means it's going to be 2 against 0. Because this pawn will get captured anyway, right? So 2 against none. Like, wow, that's a 2 pawn advantage on one flank. Okay, so rook check here. Capture, capture. So see, now it's 2 against 1. Although, since I'm a human only, I have my own fears, and I think fear got into the way of my into my play. This is where things medyo got bad. Okay, so I had an advantage here. I think I was about +1, +2 already in this position. I played knight g5. Beth played rook h4. I played king g2. Now, the better move here, apparently, the engine suggested, and I was like, king g2 is very natural, right? Because you're developing your king. At the same time, you're assisting the pawns from being pushed. Your king is assisting these pawns. So that's the whole idea why I played king g2. But I think the computer found a better reply, and that's knight f3. The idea of playing knight f3 is after rook h8, after the rook gets out of the way, there's already h4. And now, this pawn was able to gain some tempo. It was able to be pushed. Now, Beth will have to reckon with this pawn being pushed. And Beth's knight cannot easily come into the game because it's guarded by this one. Right? So maybe Beth can play here, but it will take a longer way to get there. Compared when I played king g2. When I played king g2, the pawn was still here. Now after knight f3, rook h8, h4, the pawn is 2 steps further, nearer to the destination. So anyway, going back to the game, king g2, knight d4. Now see, if I played knight f3, this move wouldn't have been possible. Knight f7, knight e6, rook g3, Knight f4 check, hoping to grab this pawn here. King f3. Now you think you can grab this pawn, sorry. You think you can grab this pawn here? No, because the knight is hanging. Okay. King c7. Knight e5. King d6. Knight g4. Okay, this is the move I played. I blocked the rook from communicating with the knight. And I also defended this pawn here so that at least I have done defense. Although it's not really the best reply because the computer, when I did analysis, found a better move, and that move is knight g6. And when I saw knight g6, I was like, I wish I saw that in the game because that would have gave me my victory. Because if you play knight g6, you're forced to trade the knights, and once after you trade this, count the number of pawns. I have 2 pawns here that are uncontested. Although Beth has a pawn majority here, she still needs to trade everything away to get the 1 pawn she needs. On the other end, I have 2 pawns here that are ready to push. And I was like, why didn't I think of that earlier? That I could have played rook g, I could have played knight g5 or knight g6 and then exchange everything. And it would have been a favorable endgame for me. I didn't see it, so I played knight g4 instead. And then she played knight d5, h3. So I defended the pawn, hoping to push a5. So she started pushing her pawns on the other side. King e4, rook h8, knight e3, check. Okay, now here's my mistake. Another mistake I played. The better move here is to play king f3, apparently. And then after king e5, you can find another move here that will suit you. Right. However, king e5 actually is met by this pala. Oh no, sorry, not that. Can't be played. So there's so many opportunities for you here. However, I played the worst move possible. I played king d3, which I believe is another mistake because of what Beth played. She played knight f4, check. And after knight f4, she was able to grab this pawn here in the corner. My advantage, my sole advantage, that should have been converted here after this knight f3 and then rook h8, h4, which should have been converted, turned into a capture. Here, where? Here, turned into a capture. And after I lost that pawn, I was like, okay, this is already drawish. And there's nothing much I can do. So rook h3, knight h3, knight c4. So I decided, should I play knight g4 and like make the game magulo, right? And I thought to myself, I'm playing against an engine. You know, engines are supposed to be masters at endgame or masters at chess because they have the perfect accuracy and all that stuff. So I was like, maybe I should just play to the easier ending because this is an engine, of course, right? So when you play an engine, they will always play the best move. So I played knight c4 instead. I decided to give up this pawn and grab the pawns here on the left. So king c5, knight a5, trying to grab the pawn here. So if she captures this pawn, I'll capture this one. b6, of course, check. King c4, knight c1, knight takes, b3 check. Because I want to bring my king closer. So I played b3 check. King d4, knight e2 check. Now the king goes back. I push my king to c3, king e4, b4. So just pushing my pawn. Because if I push my king closer, then her king will be able to come in. Knight c1, or not yet. King e3, knight c1, knight e4 check, king c4, knight d6 check, king c3, knight e4. So I was like, here, you want to just draw, right? Because we have equal number of pawns. Knight d2 check, king c3, b5, knight b3. And after this move, she decided to capture she decided to trade off the knights. So knight takes b3, takes king d4, a4, ba4, king a4, king c4, king a5, king b3, b5, a takes b5, and king takes b5. And after move 64, Beth Harmon and I drew our game. So the game ended in a draw. So at first I was happy with the result, of course, but after analyzing the game more, I realized that I could have won. There are many chances for me to win, and I'll show them to you again as a summary before I end this video. The first chance for me to win was here. Is it this one? This one. Possibly this one could have been a way to win, right? This knight g5 could have been one way to break open the position and annoy black. Another position was really this one, no? This one was my mistake. I could have captured this and created a nice position like this, which never happened. And my last chance to win was this move, knight g6, which I didn't see, and I played knight g4. Okay, so, in the end, at the end of the day, guys, it's nothing to feel bad about. Why? Because chess is a complex sport, a very complex game. No human can ever be perfect at chess. There's no such thing as a perfect human that can play such beautiful moves. Even Magnus Carlsen makes mistakes, right? It's part of the game. That's why it's so beautiful because people make mistakes. People make inaccuracies, have blunders, have mistakes, all these things. And it makes the game very beautiful because you can also psych out your opponent. Of course, I was feeling scared when I was playing the computer because I was like, oh, I'm so close to achieving a good result against Beth Harmon at 2,400. And if you can imagine 2,400, how many people are rated that high, right? It's not a very common rating, common skill to be rated 2,400, right? It's a very high rating already. And I was like thinking to myself, I'm getting scared. I was like, okay, she's strong. But at the end of the day, maybe this is a lesson for me to conquer fear, conquer all those things and set them aside, like what Beth did in the series, and just play my best and concentrate and find the best move. For example, what is the board telling me to do in this position, right? It's to capture, it's to trade the knights away and simplify the game, which I didn't do. Okay, so that's just a thing to note about. So with that, guys, I hope I didn't talk too fast, and I hope I also didn't talk too slow. I hope I was able to explain more on the game and the caveats in and out of this game. It ended in a draw. Okay, so for those who are wondering, yeah, this was my first time playing against Beth, and it ended in a draw. I hope to be able to play the other Beths soon, and I'll analyze them win or lose, regardless of the result. Okay, so I'll see you all again in the next video. Have a safe evening and happy Saturday to all. Peace.